Good evening, and welcome to the Burnsville Parks and Natural Resource Commission meeting for Monday, February 2nd, 2015. Our first item of business is to approve the agenda. Are there any items that commissioners would like to add?
Nope.
Seeing none, motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion is approved. The second item is for citizen comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the commission? Seeing none, we will move to the third item of business, which is approval of minutes for the meeting on January 5th. Commissioners, is there anything you would like to add to the minutes from the previous meeting? Staff?
Nope.
Nothing from staff.
Motion for approval of the minutes for January 5th.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Say aye.
Okay, the motion is moved. Our fourth item of the evening is to review the application for a conditional use permit, wetland replacement plan for the Black Dog Regional Trail. Presenting that, we have Billy Gorsha, Daryl Jacobson, and Tanya Gittry.
Good evening, members of the commission. Thank you very much for the opportunity here tonight. Again, I'm Julie Gorczak. I'm here as the project manager for the project, and I'll be walking you through at least a little bit about the trail and where we've been, and then Daryl is going to take over and do the environmental review, and then we'll open it up for some comments and questions that you might have. You may remember I was here about a year ago exactly to bring the details of the Black Dog Regional Trail to you. The trail is 3.5 miles long. It does have a number of trail amenities along the trail. It does have 3 different bump out locations where you can sit by the river and view the river and stop along the way. We do have an observation deck that we're replacing with a new one that's part of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Refuge that's on along the trail. We also have a new trailhead that I have another slide for here in just a second. Our partners are Dakota County, who's a major contributor in the project. You may recall that it will now become a part of the regional trail system once the construction is complete in 2017. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is also one of our key partners, as well as Xcel Energy. Here's a quick graphic of the trailhead. It includes, obviously, parking, lighting, wayfinding, signage in the middle here, the kiosk right here, some picnicking areas, and then the trail will go right through the park here. There'll also be opportunities for people to fish along the bank here of the Minnesota River. That's just a really quick overview on the project. So we'll move right into the environmental impacts, and I'm going to bring Daryl Jacobson up to the kiosk.
Thank you. So obviously with this trail being down along the Minnesota River, there is going to be some wetland impacts associated with the construction of the trail. As you can see, we've got 3.22 acres of permanent impact, and that essentially is in the areas where the paved trail will actually be. And then there's also 5.76 acres of temporary impact, which is a small area outside of the trail that will be disturbed as part of the construction process. And kind of the difference is with the permanent impacts, there is mitigation requirements that go along with permanently impacting wetland area. With the temporary impacts, those areas qualify what's considered a no loss determination, which means when the trail is complete, then those areas that are disturbed will be restored and will continue to be wetland. And so essentially you can issue a no loss decision, meaning there won't be a loss of wetlands there. It's just a temporary impact. And so those areas do not require mitigation as part of the process. This project is a joint project with Dakota County. So the way it's been proposed right now is that the city of Burnsville would purchase half of the wetland credits. The replacement for this impact is 2-to-1. So essentially you've got 3.22 acres of impact. so it does need to be replaced with 6.44 acres of wetland credit. Burnsville has agreed to purchase half of those, and Dakota County is also purchasing half of those credits. There are 3 wetland banks that are proposed to be used with this project. Burnsville's portion would come from a wetland bank in LeSueur County, and then Dakota County's portion of their credits would come from a existing wetland bank that they own and manage, and those wetlands are located in Dakota County. There aren't any wetland banks in Dakota County that are selling credits, and so the Wetland Conservation Act does set up a kind of a protocol of, if you are going to impact a wetland and it is approved, here's how those impacts can be replaced. And so it's set up by the location of the wetlands. It have to be in the same major watershed. And then there's also some type restrictions, so you got to replace with a similar type of wetland that's being impacted. And obviously the proposal that we've put together meets all those requirements. There's also a technical evaluation panel that includes staff from Dakota County Soil and Water Conservation District, Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources, and the Minnesota DNR, along with city staff and consultants that the city hired that review this project as it's been going forward. And as part of the notice of application, all those folks get a chance to comment on it. We have been in contact with those members, and they have told us at this time that they are not going to have any additional comments on this application. So it's got the support of the technical panel as well. There are some other environmental impacts potentially outside of the wetlands and the wetland review process. There's also a floodplain ordinance that the city is responsible for enforcing, and a shoreland ordinance. So essentially in this case, the floodplain is from the Minnesota River, and our planning department is the one that reviews and looks at that, and this project is in compliance with all of our floodplain regulations. And also the shoreland ordinance comes from its proximity to Black Dog Lake. Anything within 1,000 feet of a lake in Burnsville is subject to that shoreland ordinance that we have. And there's several things that go into that, impervious pavement percentages, tree removal, all those things get looked at when you're in the shoreland area. And this project does meet all of the shoreland regulations in the city of Burnsville code. So there is no review needed outside of what the ordinance allows. Just a quick update on the timeline for this project. This will go before City Council on February 17th, and then potentially, if it's approved at that time, be out for bids in April or May, and looking at construction this summer, potentially into the fall. And with that, I would, myself and other staff will stand for any questions that you have.
Any questions from commissioners? Yes.
I have a question. So can you help me understand, and for the audience who are watching this, is the buy-in process. What does that mean? Or if you can explain it a little bit in a layman terms, what does that mean from a buy-in process? So when we are taking 3.22 acres, when we are buying a land on another area, are we buying what kind of land is that? Or are we converting it? How that works?
So the wetland banks that are set up is, someone else took a piece of land that either used to be wetland or at least has the ability to become wetland and has already made that transformation, essentially, done a restoration on it, and created a new wetland area that then they are allowed to deposit into a bank. The state of Minnesota runs the wetland banking process. And so then as those new wetland areas become developed and set up in a bank, then at that point they're available for purchase for other projects that will have a permanent impact to a wetland. And so that's where that protocol comes in that the state sets up as to what types of wetlands and location, which banks qualify for replacement in different areas. And so there is a price associated with that, and the price varies by location and different things like that. But then essentially those new wetlands that are created are put in a perpetual conservation easement. And so those and that's all managed by the state. So the state ends up with a perpetual easement over those lands, so that they can't be then potentially down the road, disturbed or filled in. So it's a way that they can meet these 2-to-1 requirements that the state has set up for wetland impacts. And so then, a private person, if they're doing wetland impacts, or in this case, City of Burnsville and Dakota County, can negotiate with those bank owners, come up with a purchase price, purchase those wetland bank credits, and then now those credits are set aside through that conservation easement to offset these impacts.
Thank you.
Other comments? Yes, please.
Can you remind me the construction materials of the pathway? Is it gravel? Is it?
Well, I think maybe I'll let Tanya from WSB here answer that. She's more familiar with the construction of the trail.
The trail will be a 10-foot wide bituminous trail, and then with grass at all disturbed areas, a seeding mix. So there won't be gravel edging or anything on the trail, just a 10-foot bituminous surface.
More questions from commissioners? Seeing no additional questions, are we ready to have a motion to approve the recommendation?
Yeah, excuse me, Commissioners, you are going to be making a motion to recommend council approve this at their February 17th meeting.
At the February 17th meeting, coming up right up here. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve from the Commissioner?
Move to approve.
Move to approve from
A second.
And second. All in favor of approval for recommendation?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed, and I'm to be recorded as a nay. And with all the approvals, with all the ayes, then this motion is approved for recommendation. Do we have anything else to cover on this item, or moving right along?
That's it.
Okay, that's it. Thank you to the presenters who came to share with us the information. And this will move on to approval for the recommendation on the February 17th meeting. That brings us to the 5th item of the evening, which is to approve the PNRC goals and work plan for 2015 and 16.
Commissioners, good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Commissioners. As you know, on an annual basis, one of our objectives is to review and establish our work plan for the upcoming, we'll take a 2-year look at some of the things that are going to be before us. And some of those items we have are done on an annual basis, and then some of those items come to us year after year, and it depends on the types of projects we have going on in our park system, things like that, that require your review and your attention in some way, shape, or form. We had an opportunity at our January meeting, at our January work session, to review the annual activities, and then we had an opportunity to take a look at the those special projects is what we're going to call them, the special projects we have coming before us in the next year to 2 years, and put those on our work plan so we'll have an opportunity to discuss those as they come up throughout the year. As I said at the January meeting, you folks did your work, you created that work plan. Tonight is more about just a review of that work plan, and then you'll need to approve those because, once again, we'll be taking those to council at the February 17th meeting, having a discussion with them, letting them know what our work plan is or what we would like our work plan to be for the upcoming year. And then it's possible at that time they might have an item or two for us as well. But really that meeting is all about letting them know what we're going to be working on for the next year to 2 years at a time. So I'd like to take a few minutes to run through those goals with you really quickly. And then when we're done, I'll look for that approval from this commission. So on an annual basis, we take a look at the Parks Capital Plan for development and renovation. We hear from Daryl Jacobson on the deer management program and the strategies that he has for our parks and for certain areas of the city. We also serve as a citizen panel, and we conduct public hearings as it relates to city stormwater pollution prevention programs and the elimination systems permit program. We also receive an annual update on our sustainability progress. Sue Bast comes before us and tells us about all the wonderful things that the city is doing to improve the city's sustainability efforts. We also receive an update from the staff on our State of the Lakes. I believe that is an item that we added last year through our stormwater discussion, and you folks decided that is something you wanted to hear on an annual basis. And then on an annual basis, we also, as it says, review the work plan and provide council with any feedback we have on the items that are before us. So those are the annual activities. We've been doing those for a few years now, so not a lot has changed in that area. And in fact, nothing has changed for the 2015-2016 work plan. The special projects, this is where you folks had input, as well as we took a look at what are some of the projects coming up in the park CIP. And again, for your review, the Black Dog Regional Trail Conditional Use Permit, which is what you just heard about from Daryl and Julie and Tanya. We're also going to be receiving an update from our city staff on the Emerald Ash Borer. You're going to have an opportunity to review the Rose Bluff Trail plans. We're going to review the Cliff Fen Lions Playground Splash Pad plans as well. I think we've already talked about it a little bit, but there is a proposal to add a sculpture to the Nicollet Commons Park area at the end of the fountain, so that will come before you as well. Dan Hill from Burnham Wood Golf Course would like to provide you with an update on the some new tee box signs that he is going to begin implementing this spring. We're going to receive an update from Julie Dorshak on volunteer opportunities and programs that are happening in our park system in the areas of parks and natural resources. We're going to review the plans for the Bicentennial Garden, sculpture remodel that needs to happen this year. And then we're also going to receive an update from our, hopefully from our police department on public safety in our parks. And the last thing we have on our list is reviewing plans for phase 2 of our skate park renovation or skate park remodel. So those are the items, commissioners, that you put on to the special projects. I think I've captured everything from our January work session. I think this is the list that is ready to go before council on February 17th. However, if you have any questions or any comments, I'll take those now.
Madam Chair.
Yes, please, Lynn.
JJ, just for the record, since I'm very involved in the Burnsville Historical Society, and since some of the folks that were active in designing and implementing and caring for the Bicentennial Garden, I would like to just offer the help, and we would like to be involved in the plans for the Bicentennial Garden. It is really the first public art project that we had in the city, and it's hysterical sometimes, but historical also. And this coming year, it'll be 40 years. So we'd like to offer, and would like to be a part of the plan. Thank you.
Commissioner Nachman, we will make sure that you and your committee is part of the review process for the sculpture at Bicentennial Garden.
Okay, other questions, comments from commissioners on the work plan?
Good.
Okay, seeing none, we are making a motion to approve the work plan.
That is correct.
Make a motion to approve the work plan.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. A second. All in favor of approving the plan?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. And the motion is approved. Thank you, JJ. The next item up is miscellaneous, and I believe we do have a couple of items under miscellaneous today.
We do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, as I just mentioned, that council meeting is on February 17th at 6:30 right here in the chambers. All of you are invited to attend. I believe Maruf we'll be presenting our items to City Council at that time. So, but all of you are welcome to attend and see the process all the way through. And then our next Parks Commission meeting is going to be held on March 2nd. That's not a surprise, as we meet on that first Monday of every month. And then also in your miscellaneous packet, I've attached what is a tentative plan for the 2015 year. I took all the items that were on our work plan, and I kind of just penciled them into the dates where we will be meeting. This is a working document, so it's not set in stone in any way. This does not require your approval. It's simply just a placeholder for some of these items so that staff can begin targeting dates where they're going to be coming before you and presenting their items. So there's no action needed on that. It's simply just for your use. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Question, comment?
One item I have, JJ, is in light of the newspaper coverage of the Emerald Ash Borer, I've been asked by a couple people, well, we'd like to make sure that we get involved and inoculate some of our trees. And the two questions is, which ones should we try to do, all of them, in terms of private property I'm speaking of now, or we need some guidance, how do we say this is a worth keeping tree, or this it isn't really worth, and maybe we want to take it down. The other is discussion about, well, how can we find someone that can inoculate or whatever it is, treat our trees? There are these, will the city recommend some folks and be part of a plan, so if we want to get it inoculated, we don't have to negotiate with every tree or person there?
Those are all fair questions, Commissioner Nachman. I'm certain that our city forester can answer all those questions when he comes to us in April regarding the Emerald Ash Borer. However, if you think we need earlier answers on some of those questions, I can certainly get those to our forester in the form of an email and get those answers out to you, if that would be.
Well, would it be possible just to put something in the newspaper? I think that would, I'd like to hear it here, but I think for general distribution, provide some guidance for the folks out there. So I'd like to see it, put in one of the newspapers or whatever bulletins the city has.
Very good. I'll take a look at that and work with our communications department and see what we're doing to get the word out on it right now.
Yeah, that's all
and,
I
provide you with that update as well.
Thank you. Are there any other items for miscellaneous that any of the commissioners would like to share this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is to adjourn. It brings us to the end of our formal meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is so moved. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you all for attending or watching the Burnsville Parks and Natural Resources Commission meeting.